Hi everyone, I'm Jayne at Rockin' Worms. Thank you for joining me tonight. First off, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my channel and elevated me past that 1,000 subscriber level. We did it, and we did it together, and I really appreciate all the kindness and support you've shown me. And I was thinking that now that we're kind of even more a little sub-community of the larger worm community, that maybe we deserve a little name of our own. So I've been thinking about calling us members of the Castings crew. So let me know what you think about that name down in the comments. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you have a different suggestion? Because I think it would be nice to kind of, identify ourselves as the group and the community that we are. Some of the other channels have worm people or worm family, and it just started me thinking that, maybe we deserve a little name of our own, okay? So let me know what you think of Castings crew. All right, so now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. I'm gonna call this a module. I'm gonna call it module 1 because it'll be the first one I'm doing. But I've gotten a lot of questions and interest in breeder bin management. How I run my breeder bins, how you can run your breeder bins to increase your population, and also making it easier to manage your bins as far as, time commitment, resource commitments, and also just the physicality of sifting out castings and separating out cocoons and pulling out your breeders. So it's a whole process. And if I showed you everything I did, this would be a 2-hour video. And I don't want to do that to you. So what I'm going to try and do is break it up into modules and kind of cover a couple key components that I think will build to success when we start putting those modules together down the road. Okay, so I hope you follow that. So the first module I'm going to talk about, is 2 of the basics, I think, to successful breeder bin management. And that is your bedding and the girth of your breeders themselves, the breeder worms themselves. So rather than you continue to look at me, at least let me show you one of my breeder bins and my new bedding bin. And, that'll be more fun for you than looking at my face. So here is my new breeder bin bedding setup. Now, if you watch some of my other videos, you're already familiar with this. You might be tired of hearing about my pre-compost indoor tabletop method, but I'm going to bore you to death on it because I do think it is just a super way of getting your breeder bins off to a fantastic start. So this is my indoor tabletop pre-compost mixed with sifted cow manure. I did this up earlier today. I also have mixed in worm chow, agricultural lime, a little veg powder, powdered dry veg powder, and azomite. I knew there was one more thing. And then I added regular water. You can use rainwater. I just used regular water because I have well water. And I made it really damp, not soppy wet. You can see it's not soppy wet, but it is damp. And let me show you again. You can hear that moisture level. You can see it's leaving moisture on my gloves. You can see it's making a ball, but I can break it apart, but I do need to put a little pressure on it. And that's the kind of moisture level you're shooting for in your breeder bins because they just seem to, make more cocoons when they can breathe easier and move easier through your substrate. So this is the bedding. If you can't do pre-composted bedding, I get it. It's a process. It takes some time. It takes some space. At least the resources tend to be cheap or free with shredded cardboard you can get basically anywhere, and coffee grounds that you can get from a number of places, including Starbucks for free just for asking. But if if that's just not in the realm of possibility right now, then think about doing prepared bedding, which I did a video on. I'll link that below. And, perhaps that's something you can do. The bottom line is anything you can do to make your bedding more easily digestible by your breeders will move your process along more quickly and smoothly and efficiently, okay? So that's the point. Think about your bedding and what you can do to make it more of a ready-to-eat meal for your worms, as opposed to something that they've got to really work at. You want them putting their energy into breeding and not into finding food, okay? So that's one component that I wanted to talk to you about. The second component, and this is one of my breeder bins that I am in the process of resetting this weekend. Let's just zoom in here real quick. See all the cocoons? Cocoon, 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 cocoon. This is what we want to see, right? In our breeder bins. We just want to see cocoons all over the place. Now, normally I would, actually not normally, I have been just sifting out the top dry layer. It's not as dry as I'd like it to be. It actually was drier earlier today, but of course we got more rain here in Southeast Florida, and castings hold moisture really, really well, which is why they're so great for your plants in your garden. But it does kind of make it difficult sometimes when you have, high humidity in your air. But, that's the way life is. But I have sifted out a little bit, and this is some of the stuff that did not go through the 1/8 screen. And again, you can see cocoons here right on the top. And I'm going to come back, if I remember, to talk about these cocoons in a little bit later. But what I want to get back to right now is the girth of your breeders and why you want fat worms. These are my breeders. Look at the size of these. These are red wigglers. They've got the bulgy clitellum. I got a cocoon right here on my glove. They've got a yellow or orangey tail. Sometimes it's a little bit more obvious on some worms than on others. And again, this one has a better example of the tail and the bulgy clitellum. What you're looking for is, again, you want to chunky up your breeders so they're wider in girth. Why? Because your mother told you so. No, because cocoons are formed on the outside of the worm's body. The clitellums hook up kind of head to tail. Let me pull out another one just so we can get another example. Here's another one. So they hook up kind of head to tail at the clitellum, where they exchange their genetic material, and then they part ways, right? They go each their way, and each one of them now is able to make a cocoon. The cocoon is formed at or around the clitellum. I can't remember exactly. But anyways, it forms, and then it moves up the body of the worm, and then the worm casts it or throws it off over its head, okay? That's how they make a cocoon. They throw it over their head. Now, logically, if the cocoon is formed around the body, the bigger the underlying body is, the bigger the cocoon will be as it comes off and drops into your worm bin. And bigger cocoons, here's two more breeders, okay? Bigger cocoons means that they're easier for you to see. Here, back into the, take a look. Here are just cocoons, right? They just pop right out at you. There's no searching for them. They're just here waiting for you to see them. So they're easier to see, and also they're bigger than the holes in your screen mesh when you sift, okay? And that means that when you do sifting, let me do a little sifting. Like I said, this is a little damp here, but we'll give it a go. I'm gonna pull my breeders out. They don't need to go for a ride. When you do a sift, this is a 1/8 inch screen. See these cocoons here, how they're not going down to the screen. Yes, they're smaller than the screen, but with the sifting method, the sifting motion, they tend to stay on the surface of your material, okay? I don't know if it's because they're lighter or because of their shape, but that's what they do. And it's really handy, and we're gonna use that in future modules to, again, facilitate separating out cocoons from your castings, okay? But anyways, they don't go through the screen. So when you dump them into a holding bin, which will eventually become a cocoon nursery bin, you've already got a whole bunch, the majority of your cocoons in this substrate already. And back here in your second layer screen, this is a 1/12 inch screen, which is always below my 1/8 inch screen, catching the castings to go through. You can see there are, I saw one just a minute ago. Oh, here's one. So there is a cocoon, okay? So cocoons will go through, but do you see that here's another one, but do you see that it's not as many cocoons that were on the 1/8 inch screen on the top? So most of the cocoons came out in the overs, if you will, and just a few came through the 1/8 inch screen, and down here, which will be just a little, this is the stuff that went through the 1/12. There will be a cocoon or two in here, okay? I'm not gonna tell you there won't be, because there will be, because cocoons, can be smaller. I do have smaller breeders. I try to make them as big and chunky, but sometimes somebody doesn't want to eat. But again, very few cocoons in here. So I'm very comfortable putting this into my castings bucket and not worrying about the few cocoons that went through. And I will, again, in another module, talk to you about how you can more efficiently separate out your cocoons from these castings, if you want to do that, which I do. But if you want to do that, I'll show you how I do that. And I've kind of been working on my process and making it faster and more efficient for me. And again, I'll be sharing that with you in subsequent models, okay? So that's really what I wanted to show you just in this first module. Work on your bedding, figure out what you can do to make it easier for your worms to chow down, turn it into castings, so you get that benefit. And at the same time, think about how you can fatten up your worms. Now, I don't remember, but I don't think I said, how to fatten up your worms is basically worm chow, okay? Now, worm chow can be any ingredient basically that you have dry in your pantry, but the ones you want to think about using primarily are flours, Flours, white wheat, bran, that kind of rye flour, and also oatmeal. Just, your regular quick oats or old-fashioned oats I prefer. I actually buy my oatmeal now from the feed store, and I get horse feed oats. And they're rolled oats. They don't look like the rolled oats out of the Quaker box. They're more still in the shape of the oat seed. But what I do is I pulverize them in my mixer into my blender and make it into a powder. And that's basically oat flour, right? And that is a main ingredient in my worm chow. And the combination of the protein and the carbs that are in these kind of flours really is high caloric and helps put the weight on your worms. And so your worms get fatter, just like we get fatter when we eat high caloric foods and don't exercise very much. These worms are getting high calorie foods, and not exercising very much because I'm putting the food right where their little mouths are. And that allows them to put on the weight. And again, the reason for that is because fatter worms make bigger cocoons, and bigger cocoons are easier to do what you want with, okay? And again, we'll talk about that in future modules. So there you go. Welcome to Module 1, my dear Castings crew members. Please think about liking and subscribing. I really appreciate, again, all the support that you've shown me over the past 5 months. It's been fantastic. I've learned just as much doing this as I hope you've learned from me watching. So you have a good night. Take care. I remain yours in the dirt, Jayne.